you making fun of disco? I won a disco championship in Staten Island, New York. Welcome back to the Five. I bet you wanted to know that. I want to talk about an issue that means a lot to me personally and should be taken very seriously. One current and 6 former NFL players, including 2-time Super Bowl winner Jim McMahon, have filed a class action suit against the league for its handling of concussions. Some of the issues cited are now how the league trained players to hit with their heads and the treatment for concussions. Now, let me say that the NFL has been, and I include the NAACP, excuse me, the college sports have been absolutely outrageously bad on this. When I played football, there's very little difference between the kind of helmets I used then and the used now, and I'm telling you, that was a long time ago. I have personally had 5 concussions, which is why I'm still a liberal in my 50s. But the other thing is, this is now going down to kids in high school. It is a very, very dangerous thing, and it's ending careers early, and the NFL does it. Why? Because they think people like to see these nasty hits. Exactly. That's the only reason they do it. And they're risking people's lives.
NFL is doing what? Let's take a look at a hit from late last night. Now, this didn't cause a concussion, at least not yet, but there is violence in football. This is a violent hit. Yeah. Yes, we get it. Watch, here we go. It's the Patriots game from last night. Here we go. You're going to see it right here. Boom. You see, that's a hit. Okay, that's what football is. How is the NFL wrong for what they've done?
I won't tell you what baseball is. I played football. That was not necessarily a bad hit. I'm talking about spiking. I'm talking about getting to quarterbacks. And
how is that the NFL, Bob? How do you blame the NFL?
The NFL has not gone and made their rules strict enough to avoid and penalize these guys. There's certain guys who play football. I played with them in college that are outright thugs who are going out there to hurt people.
And they are being fined.
No, they're not being fined nearly enough.
Well, first of all, there's an assumption of risk when you get into the NFL that you might get hurt. But I bet you any of those guys out there on that field, they would take that hit just for one more yard if it meant, getting it down.
But here's the difference. When they know they've had concussions, that the teams let them go back and play again, is jeopardizing their lives.
Bob, they don't even just let them. They encourage them to.
Exactly.
But guys, inject it in the locker room. They go back out. And a lot of these guys, when they leave the NFL, they don't have the adequate medical coverage, protection. They need rehabilitation. They've suffered
and they are, and they will. But here's the essence of the suit right here. The suit accuses the NFL of negligence and intentional misconduct. Is there any?
Because when the Rules Committee of the NFL meets, they go out of their way to avoid putting heavy prices and penalties on people spearing people. That's why.
I don't know about that.
Well, you ought to know about it. And listen, these people, what Kim just said is very important. The NFL players, the older players, get paid nothing.
Nothing.
It's disgraceful. It's disgusting. And these rich owners who fly down there in their corporate jets ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Bob, a study showed, too, just a couple years ago, that 40% of players, and they are allowed to choose what kind of helmets they use, are choosing the second to the lowest, most preventative helmet. Why?
I tell you why, because they can move faster, they can turn faster. But here's the thing. Why are they even offered lower quality ones? They should be forced to wear the best quality helmet.
What we're talking about is for the NFL to assume some kind of moral and ethical responsibility because they are profiting in the billions of dollars on these players' lives. There's guys that they come out of the NFL, they are drug addicted to all the painkillers that they have been given in the locker room time and time again. I've done 5 different segments on my show about this. It's reprehensible what happened, and I think we owe them. We sit there and enjoy this sport every Sunday.
I want to ask Greg a question.
I will owe them a responsibility to take care of their health needs, and so does the league.
Okay, Greg, go ahead.
On them.
Greg, please.
This is why I only engage in nude gymnastics. You can't get hurt.
Is that what you were doing earlier over there? That weird position?
You just put mattresses out on the floor. No one gets hurt.
You know
what happened to water ballet?
I got over that.
Wait.
Little ear infection.
I just want to point out that the producer said to me, ask Greg a question about this, and we just did, and we got nude gymnastics. Okay.
That's why I like water sports.
I would just say at a minimum, they ought to force players to wear the best equipment they can. And let's remember, this game was never meant, there was never going to be equipment that's going to protect knees, ankles, necks, and now we're going to go to Michael Vick.
And GQ.
You talk about a really wonderful fella. I think we have Michael now has found religion on dogs now after he strung up and killed a bunch of them. And I think he made some statement about his own dog, didn't he? What does it say, Eric? I can't read it.
It says, I've always had a family pet, always had a dog growing up, and it was almost equivalent to the prison sentence, having something taken away from me for 3 years. I want a dog just for the sake of my kid. Not only just for the sake of my kids, but also me. I miss my companions.
Yeah, let me put it this way. The last person I would give a dog to would be
Exactly.
Michael Vick, number one. Number two, if you're so compassionate about your dog, Mike, why did you have a bunch of them fight each other? They were owned by somebody. They may have had kids who liked those little dogs, but you saw fit to let them get killed. I don't buy any of this PR stuff, except that you're paying some people some good
But
money.
I think it's bad PR advice. I mean, as someone
Okay.
who's advised on PR for years, if I'm his PR advisor, I'm telling him, don't talk about dogs, Michael. Look, you got your second chance. Stop talking about
Okay,
it.
there's another quote. There's another quote, Kim. Let's look at this, and then go ahead after that. What does he say, Eric?
He says, quote, some of us had to grow up in poverty-stricken urban neighborhoods, and we just had to adapt to our environment. I know that it was wrong, but people act like it's some crazy thing they never heard of. They don't know.
This is a funny quote
This
in the
is
sense
his
that,
defense?
well, the fact is he's blaming growing up in poverty, but there are plenty of people who live in poverty who don't fight dogs.
You know, one of the craziest lines of all.
Kimberly, you tried.
I miss my dogs, man.
You've tried a lot of these
he misses
cases.
dogs. Okay, let me tell you about this guy, right? Because I met with Wayne Pacelli from the U.S. Humane Society, who was key in trying to work with Michael Vick and his rehabilitation and saying, I'm going to go out and do outreach in these communities. But how offensive to say that this is just the way of life. I mean, yeah, there's people that do dog fighting. I prosecuted these cases. It was not at the LADA's office, San Francisco, and, you know, as you mentioned, Andrea, the dog mauling case. But this is such a self-serving thing, so narcissistic. It shows that he just doesn't get it in his speech interview.
Right.
And he wants to be rewarded, besides having this, you know, multi-million-dollar NFL contract. We show him the dogs after he electrocuted them and hung
We
them.
showed him,
They don't
they
have
showed him
dog-
the Benjamins. Enough with the
There's
dogs.
not many fights in the ghettos. The place he went where they sell R.C. Cole and a Mumbai, those are the people that watch that stuff. Coming up.
What?
I'm sorry. I'm talking about a bunch of rednecks down in that place where he was running those things. Coming up.
Rednecks?
Redneck.
What are you
I used to
talking
be
about?
a redneck. I can talk about rednecks. I'll get yelled at again about that. All right. I don't even know what I'm saying here. It's disturbing new details of the case of the missing American in Aruba. Oh, great. Stay with the 5. We'll be right back.
At the right time.